Thank you. Kathleen, how about a roll call?
Commissioner Blanco?
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Here.
Commissioner Lopez is absent. Commissioner Seifert?
Here.
Chair Dickerson?
Here. Approval of the Planning Commission minutes of November 3rd. Has everybody had a chance to take a look at them, and do any adjustments need to be made? Otherwise, a motion.
I move that we approve the motions for the November 3rd meeting.
I have a second.
I'll second that.
All right. Choose who you want, Kathleen. And I guess we're going to need a roll call for motions now.
Okay. Commissioner Hernandez?
Here. Aye.
Commissioner Blanco?
Aye.
Commissioner Seifert?
Aye.
Chair Dickerson?
Aye. Moving on to public comment period. Each member of the audience may address the commission on any subject within the commission's business. Each member of the audience and each subject is limited to discussion of 3 minutes or is otherwise directed by the chair. This is for items that are not on the agenda. So if anybody would like to say anything that is not already scheduled on the agenda, you may do so now. Seeing none.
Chair Dickerson,
Yes.
sorry to interrupt you. I was just going to make a quick mention for anyone who's on Zoom on how to comment.
Thank you.
Sure. If you wish to comment on an agenda item and you are on Zoom, please use the raised hand icon on the Zoom platform. Once you are recognized, you will then be unmuted and allowed to comment on the business at hand in the order received. Maximum comment time is 3 minutes or is otherwise directed by the chair. And if you are calling in and you wish to be acknowledged, please raise your hand by dialing *9 and then identify yourself when unmuted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dan, for reminding me of that. So we have the public comment period. I don't see anybody moving forward. Is there anybody on Zoom that would like to? Oh, yes, ma'am. I think so. Is that for an agenda item? Yes. Okay. So we'll move on to the consent calendar. I will be recusing myself from the consent calendar item. Number one, if it gets pulled for discussion, then my understanding is that I have to get up and I will exit the area here. And if it doesn't get pulled, then I can sit and wait it out. So, Vice Chair.
Would anybody like to pull this item for discussion on the consent calendar? Or do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the consent calendar.
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second to approve the consent calendar. Can we get a roll call, please? Commissioner
Hernandez?
Aye.
Commissioner Seifert?
Aye.
And Vice Chair Blanco?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item number 2, Starbucks Drive-Thru Plan Development Permit and Conditional Use Permit at 1201 East Main Street. Can we hear from staff?
Yes, thank you, Chair Dickerson and Commissioners. I'm just going to be sharing my screen for those who are watching on Zoom. I just need one moment to do that. Interesting. Try here. Let's try. Oh, it's up there now. That's Zoom. Is it on your Zoom yet? Okay. That's not working. I just tried it a few times and it was working. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. We're having some technical issues, but I'll try one more time. worked earlier, so. Okay, well, with that being said, I'm just going to move with the presentation because I know they can hear it, and looks like they're seeing it now, so, okay. Thank you. So my name is Dana Eady. I'm the Planning Division Manager with the city. I'm going to be presenting the Starbucks Drive-Thru on Main Street project at 1201 East Main Street. This is a request for a planned development permit as well as a conditional use permit for the drive-through use. The site is located next to, adjacent to northbound Highway 101 to the on-ramp. It's just north of Main Street. And the surrounding development includes the Home Motors site to the east. There's a Shell gas station across Main Street to the south. And then to the southeast are some medical offices as well. The property is in a planned development highway commercial district with commercial and freeway service districts in the surrounding area. So the Home Motors site is zoned C2, which is general commercial. And then to the south is the Shell gas station that's zoned freeway service. And then adjacent to that is commercial and professional offices and also general commercial. So this is a view of the site looking north from the Shell station that's across the street. The building is currently occupied by 3 tenants. So there's an existing Starbucks use, there's an Alpha restaurant, as well as a Subway. And then this is another view of the site from a motorist perspective getting onto the freeway. The site's currently fully landscaped, and there's also an existing pylon freeway sign that you can see here in this photo. And this is a view heading west on Main Street towards Highway 101. Currently, the site is accessed through a right turn in and right turn out access point off of Main Street. There is a pork chop median that's installed here that is intended to preclude any left turn movements from Main Street into the property. So this project includes remodeling the existing 4,400 square foot building. It includes demolishing approximately 3,000 square feet of the existing building. And then there would be a 1,525 square foot Starbucks coffee shop remaining. The site would be redesigned to include a drive-through that has stacking space for 16 vehicles. And the stacking space provided was based on a traffic study that was prepared for the project that studied the site circulation as well as the trip generation rates from the project. And there was a queuing analysis that was also included in that traffic study. And the queuing analysis looked at other Starbucks in the area and studied how much stacking space is normally needed for those sites. And I believe this study talked about 12 cars, and so this one includes 16. There's a new 400 square foot outdoor patio that's proposed just to on the west side of the building with patio seating. There's also parking for 12 spaces, which meets the municipal code requirements, and then new landscaping. And so after the landscaping is installed, it's about 28% of the site would be landscaped. There are some frontage improvements that are proposed on Main Street and some changes to Main Street as a result of this project. So it includes removing the existing pork chop median that's currently located in the driveway. The main reason for doing that is because the fire department and other emergency entities have had difficulty accessing the site with the pork chop being there. So the plan is to remove the pork chop and then install a worm median on Main Street that precludes left turns into the site from Main Street. And then it still allows left turns to access the Marion Health and Wellness Center, which is located to the north of this site. So the plan is to install signage that states there would be no U-turns permitted, and then also a new stop sign, and then signage that talks about how it's right turns only when you're leaving the property. There are some existing palm trees that are proposed to be removed that are along Main Street. And then in another slide, I'll go over the landscaping that's going to be installed in a bit more detail. So the traffic study was completed by ATE, and it analyzed the number of average daily AM and PM peak hour trips and just the overall number of average daily trips that would be generated by the project. The project trip generation rates from the traffic study are shown on this slide, and the rates come from the ITE trip manual. It's the Institute of Traffic Engineers trip manual. So the number of average daily trips and AM and PM peak hour trips would be reduced as a result of this project. And that's because you're removing the two other restaurant uses that are currently at the property. So this slide is showing that for average daily trips, you would end up with a decrease of about 734 daily trips, and also a decrease in the number of AM and PM peak hour trips, so 36 in the AM and 33 in the PM hour. And then you can see the rates here as well. So the rate for a Starbucks with a drive-through is $820, and that's a little more than a Starbucks without a drive-through. So this is the landscape plan. The applicants plan to try and use as much of the existing landscaping as they can because there is a lot of mature landscaping on the site. They are proposing to add additional street trees and shade trees throughout the site, and specifically along the Highway 101 area there, which is the western property line, also along the southern property line, and then within the parking area where you can see the reddish trees. Those are being added to the site. And then the drive-through concept also provides a dedicated lane that has additional landscaping between the drive-through and then the freeway on-ramp as well. And then you can see the different types of shrubs that are proposed to be included. So this is the south elevation from the Main Street frontage. And in this south elevation, you can see where the drive-through is going to go. It's actually behind the screened area there. It's a covered drive-through, so the cars just drive straight through that area. And there's climbing vines and that are proposed, and it's intended to be a green wall to soften the project and just have a little bit of landscaping there. So this is a view from the parking lot. The architecture is in keeping with the existing building's design with smooth stucco, S-tile roof, and decorative awnings. And then these are the side view elevations with the pickup window canopy and the shade awnings that are shown, as well as the paint colors that are proposed. This is the perspective from Main Street looking east at the site. And the drive-through is shown here going through the building at that point. And then this shows the cars, how they would be exiting the drive-through, and just the overall view of the building there. And then this slide, I just wanted to show some real-world examples of other Starbucks locations that have this type of drive-through. My understanding is that these locations are in Ventura and in that area. So the arrows are just showing the drive-throughs for each of these different sites. So the recommendation is that the Planning Commission by motion approved Plan Development Permit PD 2021-1 and conditional use permit U 2021-3 as conditioned. I did want to mention that the applicant is in attendance, as well as Mr. Scott Shell with ATE is in attendance to answer any questions regarding the traffic study that was prepared for the project. And staff's also available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Is somebody from Starbucks here by any chance?
Yes, he is on Zoom.
He's on Zoom, okay. First, I'd like to ask if any of the commissioners have had any ex parte communication regarding this project.
Yes, I received an email from Jacob Weintraub.
I talked with Jacob Weintraub and also Pat Cusack.
Yeah, also did get an email from Jacob Weintraub.
As did I, so there you go. Then moving on, let's go ahead and hear from the applicant, I guess. And do we want to hear from the applicant?
Yes, thank you. And Kathleen, his name is Greg. He should be on Zoom. Should raise his hand. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Good evening, Commissioners and staff. My name is Greg Fick with Tate & Associates, and just wanted to apologize for not being able to be in attendance tonight. I'm just a little bit under the weather, so felt it was best interest and being an abundance of caution to keep my distance away from the public. But just wanted to mention that we're very excited about this project. Wanted to thank staff for the very thorough presentation tonight. I want to let you guys know that we've reviewed the conditions of approval and are accepting of all the conditions. I also wanted to take the time to reiterate a couple key points as it relates to this project as well. One question during the study session, we did analyze the potential for moving the building westward. As part of that, the best solution that we came up with was moving the pickup window a little bit to the west. However, after talking with our traffic engineer, it really didn't provide any better alternatives with cars exiting through the driveway. So would not recommend that, as it would also lose 2 cars in the queuing stall. Wanted to reiterate that the project does meet all zoning requirements. That reconfiguring the site to allow a drive-through is very critical to the long-term success of the site, especially given COVID restrictions, future uncertainty, and the impact that it's had on all businesses. As you can tell probably from many of the developments that are coming in, there are many drive-throughs and alternative modes to make sure that businesses thrive. The project trip generation, as mentioned, and I think this is a critical point, has less traffic than the existing project traffic. I know that there's been some correspondence, and you'll probably hear opposition tonight about the proposed worm median. This is something that has been thoroughly discussed with the engineering department and staff for quite some time, and has been deemed the best solution to enhance vehicular safety due to existing, other accidents that have happened. This is something that, though, we on our end want to reiterate that any project that would come forward through you would require this median. And so a denial tonight on adding a worm median and circulation would really prohibit anything happening to this site. So just really want to reiterate those points. Want to thank you for your consideration. As mentioned, Scott Shell with ATE, our traffic engineer, is in attendance tonight, and I'm also here to answer any questions that you may have as well.
Thank you very much. Does the commission have any questions of the applicant or of staff at this time? Anything? No? Okay, hearing none. Let's go ahead and move on to opening this meeting to the public comment. We have some written communications that have been sent to us. I suppose those will be in the record. And we have some public comments, so we'll go ahead and start with Jacob Weintraub. Mr. Weintraub? 3 minutes. Yeah, you'll have 3 minutes, and if you could give us your Go ahead, Frank. No. If you can give us your name and
Yes.
address for the record, please. Thank you.
My name is Jacob Weintraub, and the address is 1313 East Main. I represent the property owners at 1207 East Main and 1313 East Main, which is currently occupied by Marion Health and Wellness and Homeowners Chevrolet and Cadillac. As you all know, we have a pending plan development permit for a quick service food drive at 1313 East Main, currently flagged for the same potential tenant as 1201 East Main, which is Starbucks. I'm not here tonight to nitpick 1201 and strengthen our position with Starbucks, in view of the fact that any quick-serve food tenant would be successful in our proposed location at 1313. I'm here tonight because 1201's development is poorly planned, has a poorly planned ingress and egress, and is causing hardships to our current tenants, which we expressed concern about during the initial PD process over 15 years ago. But more importantly, because the proposed 201 development ingress and egress will only heighten the negative impact on our current tenants and our future tenants of our master plan development. We will not allow our private property to be used solely as a public turnaround by customers of a poorly planned adjacent project. So in the package in front of you is an analysis of the eastbound traffic on Main Street. As you can see, navigation currently allows a legal left turn into their property, which the worm will disallow. Now, if you go straight on Main, navigation will reroute you left on Concord and around Garnet Way, which is a private, very private, quiet street. You know, we don't want a bunch of Starbucks clients going through the Garnet Way neighborhood. Now, if you do turn left after the worm and go into the Marion Health and Wellness, then navigation will reroute you through a private alleyway behind Home Motors, which we wouldn't allow as a property owner in the back of Home Motors. Now, if you go down into Marion and make a U-turn and come back out, the U-turn from the Marion driveway back into the Starbucks, which is on page 4, is really dangerous because you have to swing out to your left to get into that driveway. So in conclusion, although the ATE traffic study for the 201 East Main dated February 10th states the traffic will reduce with the proposed Starbucks drive-thru, intuitively, we believe the traffic counts will increase significantly due to the popularity of the drive-thrus, especially considering the public's shift in food service preference post-pandemic. The neighboring properties should not have to endure the impact of a poorly planned Starbucks drive-thru. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate you keeping it to 3 minutes.
Kind of rushed through.
I get it, but like I said, I appreciate it. Mr. Ritchie. If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Tim Ritchie, and I'm the general manager and partner at Home Motors Chevrolet Cadillac at 1313 East Main Street. Unless you live that area of the town 7 days a week, 4 weeks a month, 12 months a year, and you see the traffic in that area of Nicholson and Main Street, and you see the risk to pedestrians, cyclists, motor vehicles on a daily basis, you don't truly understand the impact that a drive-through restaurant, regardless of what brand, would have extending the risk in that particular intersection. I get to work around 7:30 in the morning, between I'd say 7:15 and 8:45, 9 o'clock when school's in session. It's like playing a game of Frogger to get from Main Street, traveling eastbound, hurdling the pork chop that's currently in place, turning left into that parking lot. And I understand the traffic studies have been done, but I have to tell you that, to Jacob's point, I see the traffic for a walk-in Starbucks, and I see traffic for drive-through Starbucks, and I don't see how traffic is going to be lessened with a drive-through, especially at that time of the morning when traffic is at its worst and second to none other than maybe that 3:45 to 5:15 corridor. Those 2 times of the day, Monday through Friday, the traffic at Main Street in Nicholson is terrible. I don't know who approved the plan 15 years ago, but it's not a good plan because of the lack of egress and access. You see people waving people through the intersection in the fast lane on Main Street and have no regard for what's coming up on the slow lane at Main Street. And you have people coming the opposite direction, coming east down Main, putting their lives at the risk of others who are saying, yeah, come on through, everything's clear. I've seen accidents time and time again. So I oppose the project, and if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them for you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Mr. Ritchie. I understand we have one person on Zoom that wants to speak.
Mark Allen.
Okay. Mr. Allen, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Mark Allen. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Marion Regional Medical Center. That includes the Health and Wellness Center. I'm this evening. I won't belabor it, but we are quite worried about the left turn past the worm going into the driveway for the Health and Wellness Center. We think will very quickly become a turnaround for Starbucks. In terms of advocacy for our patient and those that are mobility challenged around that building, we see some real concerns about that. Our second concern also is, while I don't profess to be a traffic engineer, much like Mr. Ritchie says, I drive this route 6 days a week to Marion. I think the queuing will actually block the left turn into our Health and Wellness Center, further impacting our patient, potentially negative as they attempt to access their health care. So we would at least ask for some consideration on how to keep that intersection clear, whether it's a protected route like you see at the egress for fire stations or something like that, or traffic signal. I think the ingress and egress from our Marion Wellness Center will be impacted by this project, and we would ask the commission to consider anything that you could to mitigate anything that would impact our patients' opportunity to seek their health care in a timely fashion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is that it for the Zoom? All right. At this point, we'll ask for any rebuttals by the applicant, if the applicant has anything they wish to comment on the last 3 speakers.
Sure. Good evening. This is Greg Fick once again, and we absolutely respect the opinions of the testimony that you heard tonight, but those opinions are all speculative. There is not supporting evidence to back any of those claims that you heard tonight. There are many sites that are restricted to write-in, write-out movements. Again, the traffic is supported, and actually that trip generation was very conservative, as the subway was not even counted as a morning user either. So the trip generation actually is further decreased, would be further decreased from what was submitted in the report. You know, if the worm is that big of an issue for our, you know, our neighboring owners, we're absolutely fine with not putting the worm in place, if that's something that the commission would consider. That would, again, the worm does not change the traffic patterns that are existing and there today. It just enhances safety. So the question is the commission want to enhance the safety, which we support? We also support removing the median. But this is a project that meets all the development requirements, does not have any CEQA environmental impacts, and just want to reiterate, if you do have any further questions as it relates to traffic, our traffic engineer is in attendance tonight to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. At this point, I'll ask if any of the commissioners have any questions of the, once again, of staff or the applicant, or for that matter, any of the people who've spoken. No? No? All right. Then we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for discussion and decisions. Who wants to go first? Commissioner Hernandez.
I will. I personally drove by, I've driven there multiple times, and one of the times that I drove by, there was a lot of traffic. Well, every time I drove by, there was a lot of traffic, but the reason why it concerned me at the time that I was there was because there was an ambulance on the way to the hospital, and the traffic was blocking the ambulance, so it had to go around near the Shell station. So I don't know how the traffic would be decreased if you are going to have more freeway traffic getting off to go through the drive-thru. I think it's human nature to stop at a place right now where you wouldn't have to get off. I avoid that intersection for that specific reason, and I don't think I can find, based on what I've heard today, I can't make a finding that it's not going to adversely impact the adjacent properties based on my personal experience of driving through there as it is today, even with the modifications that the applicant is proposing.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Hernandez. Commissioner Seifert.
Thank you, Chair. I have to echo what Commissioner Hernandez has talked about. This has always been a problematic site, like I stated in our last talk. I think about the commissioners that sat on this project, and I think that they did the very best they could do at the time with this particular corner. It's a very difficult corner to deal with. Traffic studies, personal histories, my using the property, shopping at those restaurants. I just don't see where this is going to be something that's going to improve this corner. I think it's actually going to hinder it. I hadn't thought of the hospital and the ambulances, but obviously we wouldn't want to impede that either. I'm not happy with this current setup, the way they have it planned, and I just don't think I can support it at this time.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Seifert. Commissioner Blanco.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, maybe I do have a question. In terms of the word median, was that a requirement of staff, or was that a suggestion by the applicant, or how did the word median come about? And then also, what other options maybe were discussed as part of that?
Chair Dickerson, members of the commission, Mark Mueller, Senior Civil Engineer for the Public Works Department. The worm median came as a result of several events. With a review of access to the site, the fire department noted that the pork chop median has created several issues with access to the site in terms of getting a fire truck in, getting one out. The police department echoed those same concerns. So with the intent of the median to preclude lefts in and out of the site, the Public Works Department looked at alternative ways to preclude lefts because access, as noted throughout today's presentation and as noted by many public comment, ingress and egress from that site, making left turns can be perilous. It's, as one of the public comments made today was that the number 1 lane will stop and wave someone through, and the number 2 lane will continue to go through. The collision records have shown that it supports that that experience. So the idea would be to preclude lefts altogether because of the proximity to the signal, the queuing that exists, and it's not something that we can put up signs and stop someone from turning. So there needed to be a positive barrier in order to prevent lefts into the site. Did that answer all your questions?
Yeah, I think it did. Thanks, Mark. And were there any other options or ideas or thoughts or considerations as part of that discussion?
Bless you. There were several ideas that were passed around, and there was the same concerns that a lot of the comments today of, where are people going to be rerouted to and how is that going to impact the neighboring, the neighboring network. But ultimately, the safety of the drivers accessing the site is the utmost importance. The Public Works Department staff did not find, or could not find a barrier or some other alternative that would be supported by the department because of this reason, because of the safety.
That's definitely a tough location, and I can understand the safety being a higher priority than maybe an inconvenient movement for somebody, although it will be very inconvenient. It's definitely a tough one. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Blanco. Yeah, go ahead.
What did you say about the signs, Mark?
Could you, Commissioner Seifert, the signs, if, say you put a sign saying, you couldn't put like a do not enter because that would preclude someone from turning right into the site. You can't hang a sign that says do not turn left. There's no sign supported by the California Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices that would preclude someone or make it illegal for someone to turn other than the markings that are currently on the street. A positive barrier reinforces the fact that you cannot make this left. Other than having a police officer posted there 24/7 and stopping people from making that left, which technically I don't think is illegal. It's not putting a engineering solution in seemed to be the only appropriate option at this time.
So what was the method that's going to be used to keep the people that are using the wellness center from turning into Starbucks? What was that method going to be?
I don't think there is a method that we could propose. Ideally, you would not have two driveways that close together.
So you couldn't do a signage? I mean, there's nothing that you could post or anything like that?
I mean, you could post a no U-turn sign at that location from the wellness center going towards the Starbucks, but that's about it.
Thank you.
Mark, I had an additional question. I mean, considering in regards to the worm meeting, I mean, I think one of the things we talked about at the last hearing was, could that be extended down further? I mean, could we push that thing half a block down? And because I think it is human nature that they'll find the end of that thing and they'll make a U-turn. I mean, it'll just happen. And so the question I have is, I mean, could we theoretically do that and to push the traffic down, make it inconvenient?
Chair Dickerson, we definitely could. I don't think so theoretically, yes, you could. I don't think we have the nexus or the ability to preclude access to the neighboring site through this action. Could you assist me on, is that correct with we don't have the nexus to preclude access to the home motor site?
I'm really not sure. I think if there was a traffic mitigation measure that warranted that, I think maybe it would be something we could consider. I hadn't thought about that issue.
So we don't know.
I didn't believe that was in our nexus, no.
Okay. Any further questions of staff or anyone? All right. In that case, this takes a motion for approval. Does anyone care to make that motion? And I guess if we are not approving it, Heather, do we do a motion for denial?
Yeah, you could make a motion for denial, and if that motion passes, then staff would have to come back at the next meeting with a resolution of denial, because as you mentioned, the resolution before you is a resolution for approval. Staff would also need you to please include in your motion for denial some of the basis and the findings that they will then need to incorporate into that resolution of denial.
Okay. And kind of given what you've just said, I would like to say that I also agree with Commissioner Seifert and Commissioner Hernandez. I I think the issues regarding this particular corner, it's one of the more problematic in the city. We have some other ones that are just as bad, but, you know, I just am not comfortable with that in this particular space. So once again, I would agree with the previous statements of the commissioners, and so if the staff has to make a resolution for denial, that's part of it as well. Once again, I need to have a motion of some kind.
I move that we deny Starbucks drive-through plan development permit and conditional permit at 1201 East Main Street.
Second the motion.
Okay, can we get a roll call, Kathleen?
Sorry,
Oh, wait.
Chair, before you do that, I think Assistant City Attorney would have mentioned this, but it would be helpful to staff if you could provide a few, maybe just some additional reasons for the denial that we would put into the resolution, whether it's traffic related or some basis of that, just to make sure that we have that covered.
Sure, the traffic, and I cannot meet the finding that there's no adverse effect to the adjacent properties.
And the safety issues, I believe, as well, for that particular corner.
Yeah, mine's just related to the traffic also. I believe that everything that's stated on this little handout's going to happen with the turnarounds, the Concord, people trying to do illegal U-turns, and just causing quite a bit more trouble that's over there than it is right now.
Is that good?
Yes, thank you.
There you go.
So we need
Kathleen?
to.
Commissioner Hernandez.
Aye.
Commissioner Seifert.
Aye.
Commissioner Blanco.
Can I abstain?
Sure.
I abstain.
All right.
And Chair Dickerson.
Aye.
And Chair Dickerson and Commissioners, I did want to also mention, like Ms. Whittem said, this does need to come back to another hearing so we can bring the findings for denial in the resolution. I don't know if December 15th works for the applicant, but that's what I would be looking at to bring this back so that we don't need to renotice it. We can do a date certain. Mr. Fick is on Zoom, but I think what I'd like to do is just continue it to December 15th, and then I can check with Mr. Fick after this hearing.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 3, the continued item of People's Self-Help Housing, General Plan Amendment and Zone Change at 3170 Santa Maria Way. Can we hear from staff?
Chair and Commissioners, we're just going to switch over here. So Mr. Alvaro is going to do the presentation. I'm supposed to state that I have a conflict of interest as I own real property within 500 feet of this site, and so I can't participate as staff. So I'm going to be leaving the meeting, and Mr. Alvaro and Mr. Ng will be here to finish the meeting up today.
Ms. Zadie, do you want to restate the Zoom protocols, or at least the
Sure.
star 9 thing, so
Yes.
the city attorney will be happy?
Yes, so I will restate this. So for the drive-in item, if you wish to comment on if you wish to comment on the item, please use the raised hand icon on the Zoom platform, and then once you're recognized, you'll be unmuted and allowed to comment, and it's in the order received. And the maximum comment time is 3 minutes or is otherwise directed by the chair. And if you're calling in and wish to be acknowledged, please raise your hand by dialing star 9 and identify yourself when unmuted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are you going home? Yes. Good for you. Good for you. Very lucky. Frank, you're up. What's that?
Thank you, Chair, members of the commission. It'll be just one moment here. seeming to have the same difficulty that was had just a moment ago with sharing the slide presentation. So it should be just a moment. All right, there we go. So Chair, members of the Commission, my name is Frank Albro. I'm the Principal Planner at the City of Santa Maria. This item was originally heard by the Planning Commission on October 6th, 2021. During that meeting, a number of folks spoke against the project and others spoke in favor. The Commission made a motion to continue the item until a full complement of Planning Commissioners were in attendance. Regretfully, one of the Commission members called in ill at the last moment, and so we have 4 members here tonight. But I believe this meets the intent of why this project was continued from last time.
Excuse me, Mr. Albro, along that same line, I'm sorry to interrupt, but if I could just ask, we did have 2 commissioners who were absent at that meeting, if they could just state for the record, it's my understanding they've reviewed the item and are ready to participate tonight.
Yes, I've reviewed the item, I've watched the video, and I'm able to participate tonight.
I have also watched the YouTube video of this. I've reviewed the paperwork in front of me, and I am ready to sit in on this hearing tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. The project site is 8.89 acres. It is the existing location of the highway drive-in. Around the site is additional single-family residential to the northwest and east. South of the site is a mobile home project that is within the county of Santa Barbara jurisdiction. The land use designations surrounding the property are shown here. I do want to point out low-density residential 5 is actually on the west side of Santa Maria Way. This lighter yellow is all lower density 4. This low-density 5 north of the project site is the location of the Northman subdivision that was approved a year or so ago. And then as you can see, our general plan does show designations slightly outside of our city boundary. Our designation for the mobile home park is low, medium density residential 8. You can see the current location, the red is the drive-in, and its current designation is community commercial, and that is what is being proposed to be changed by the applicant in this item. So the applicant would like to change that designation to low, medium density residential 8. That corresponds with the city's designation that is to the south. And again, the densities surrounding the site are slightly lower. In terms of the neighboring residential properties, the Rolling Hills Estate development to the north of the project site has a density of 4.6 dwelling units per acre. To the to the east, 4.6 dwelling units per acre, and then to the south, the mobile home park has a density of approximately 8.6 dwelling units per acre. Now this is a general plan and zone amendment, so we don't have a precise number of in terms of density per acre, but the current zoning of the site is PDC2. That corresponds to the general plan land use designation, and their proposal is PDR1. This R1 zoning, and along with the low medium density classification under the general plan, would allow up to 8 dwelling units per acre. Just doing a simple calculation, not looking at the configuration of the site or any site constraints, it's potentially possible to get up to 71 dwelling units on this site, which would be 8 dwelling units per acre. The applicant did provide a concept drawing of the lot pattern, which I will move forward to here. And this concept drawing is what the applicant had intended to include as a map with this action. It shows 49 residential lots and 1 lot for open space, landscaping, and drainage basin. This map is not part of the action tonight and is not before the commission tonight. However, this map was used to assess the environmental impacts of the project. And I present it for context in terms of the environmental review, but also to provide a context of what the potential density for this site is. So this proposal equates to 5.5 dwelling units per acre. So that is very similar. It is slightly greater, but very similar to the surrounding development. Again, 4.6 for the developments to the north and to the east, and 8 for the development to the south. So this proposal would make an appropriate transition between the slightly lower density single family to the higher density mobile home park that's to the south. I do want to reiterate that the low medium density designation under the general plan is not a multifamily designation. That is a density, simple density designation of 8 dwelling units per acre maximum. And the R1 zoning that is being proposed for this site is similar, not exactly the same, but similar to the R1 zoning of the properties to the north, west, and to the east. I do want to mention there was a number of letters provided to the commission, some in support of the project, noting the need for affordable housing in the community. Others with concerns about the project, primarily the impact of a slightly higher density residential development adjacent to their properties. Some of those issues that were asserted in the letters include traffic. I do want to reiterate that this project did go through a mitigated negative declaration. One was prepared for the project and is provided in the commission's packet. There were mitigations, most of which were dealing with construction, exhaust, dust, noise, those sorts of things. The potential for discovery of archaeological resources while grading and the like. Traffic was not an impact that was deemed significant. That was based on the traffic analysis that was provided for the project. The traffic for this project does not increase the area traffic. The analysis looked at the existing situation along Santa Maria Way and multiple intersections, both north and south, and used what is generally called LOS, or levels of service, and that is a measurement of the congestion at intersections. And this project, along with the existing conditions, and in addition to other projects either recently approved or in the pipeline of construction, does not change any of the existing levels of service of any of the intersections along Santa Maria Way, north and south of this project site. All of those intersections, some of which continue to be at a level of service A with this project and all future development adjacent. Only one is at a level C, But all of those designations for those intersections do not change from what they are without the project. So this project does not have any traffic impacts. There was one recommendation in the traffic analysis, and that had to do with the site visibility from the proposed concepts, location of the street that was proposed. And again, this is not before you tonight, this is simply the concept plan. This is generally the same location as where the exit and entrance to the drive-in theater is today. The traffic analysis identified that there were some visible or vision obstructions, signage, which includes the existing signage at the drive-in. There's a mailbox, which is a small mailbox facility, and I will pull it up here. There's the mailbox, and then oleanders that were further south of the site adjacent to the mobile home park. The recommendation of the traffic analysis was removing these items and trimming back these oleanders would allow the site to have adequate visibility, but not only adequate, more than what's required based on the Caltrans manuals. So this location for an intersection not only meets the requirements for site visibility, but it far exceeds the distances that people pulling out of this project site would be able to see north and south once those oleanders are trimmed. One of the letters also noted that a similar statement was made in the traffic analysis for the Northman project, and it was citing that the tree trimming and shrub trimming had not been completed. That's simply because that Northman project hasn't started development yet, but it will be completed as part of that project. So with that, there were other comments that were more in general about the affordable nature, the concerns regarding affordable developments in general. And I do want to mention that we do have with us today the applicant, as well as the traffic engineer that did the analysis for the project. So I will leave those other questions to the applicant. And that concludes staff's presentation. I would like to just note, however, the recommendation. There's a recommendation to, by resolution, recommend that the city council adopt a resolution adopting the mitigated negative declaration and mitigating monitoring program for the project. And likewise, a recommendation that the Planning Commission recommend the City Council approve the general plan, land use amendment, and zone change. And that concludes staff's presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much, Frank. I'd like to start off actually by asking any of the commissioners if they have had any communication, ex parte communication with the applicant. Okay, seeing none, then I will go ahead and
Chair,
move. Yes.
I have had ex parte. I've had a call from Bob Nelson. I talked to him about the project.
Okay.
Yes, I received a call from Bob Nelson as well.
And thank you for the reminder. I also talked to Bob. There we go. Okay, so can we hear from the applicant?
I have questions for Frank.
Oh, all right.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Chair. So all of the calculations are based on a conceptual plan that we don't have, that we're not accepting, and that we're not looking at.
So the calculations, you're correct. The calculations were based on the concept plan showing 49 homes and one extra lot for the drainage. That's what was used for the environmental analysis. And like I mentioned, that was what was used for the traffic analysis. If the general plan and rezoning moves forward, it's the applicant's intent to submit the tentative map that was depicted on their concept. The applicant early on, when reviewing the fees, city fees for applying for the general plan amendment and zoning and the tentative map and the plan development permit for the aesthetics of the architecture and site design, decided that it was fiscally responsible of them to not commit all the money up front, that they wanted to make sure that they received the approval for the general plan amendment and rezoning before they committed not only the city fees to apply for the map and the architecture, but also the very expensive engineering fees to develop the map, develop the public improvement concept plans, and so forth, which my understanding was well up over $100,000. Being a nonprofit, they have to be very careful, and they thought this would be the best way to make sure that they didn't commit money and lose it and they would rather do this incremental approval process. The couple things I will mention about that: there is no requirement that an applicant provide all of the application requests with one application. This project could be seen as being analogous to the Blosser Southeast specific plan approval. That was a land use plan approval, general plan amendment, rezone, along with a specific plan amendment, but there were no maps that associated with that approval process, and those still have to come.
A much larger, more diverse project, wasn't it?
Yeah, true. It had multiple different types of uses, and some of which were, however, residential. They had both multifamily and single-family designations and land use classifications established, and the maps are yet to be submitted.
So People's Self-Help is under no obligation to submit the map that we see here today?
Correct. But they would be under obligation to meet the land use designation and zoning designation standards if and when they're approved. The other aspect about this is the environmental document looked and analyzed the project with the assumption that there'd be 49 residential units. If a project comes back to us with more than 49 units, that'll be a new traffic study and a revised environmental analysis looking at the impacts of that greater number of units. So in other words, the environmental analysis looked at 49. If it goes above that, we'll have to assess whether or not the impacts have changed, and that will involve new analysis.
So this isn't the normal course as how we approve projects?
It's not the typical, but it's not abnormal. This is not a unusual way. It's just not the way we've frequently seen projects come to us. But there's no requirement that they do the map at the same time.
Thank you, Frank.
The one last thing I would like to mention too, the configuration of this site with its flag lot look, it's going to be difficult to accommodate lots and streets. The applicant, that concept drawing proposes lots that are smaller than the standard size 6,000 square foot lot. They vary in size. Some are larger, some are smaller. That, if they submit, and when they do submit, that will need to be approved by the city council, those smaller lot sizes.
So is the subdivision to the north, is that a private subdivision? Is that not city streets?
Those are city streets, I believe, and it's a public.
So why aren't we tying into that project then? With this?
Both staff and the applicant agreed that knowing the history on the Northman project and the concern with traffic that neighborhood had, this site did not need to have those multiple vehicular through traffic set up. And so it was thought best to not have that be through traffic to vehicles, but leave it open through for pedestrians.
So this is one entrance, one exit only
Yes.
for over 49 homes, at least
For
49 homes.
Yes.
So could be a couple hundred people coming in and out of there every day.
The information in the traffic study, and let me find that for you. So the project would be forecast to generate 463 average daily trips. And 36 of those trips would be in the AM peak hour, and 49 of those trips would be in the PM peak hour.
And there's no light, no traffic light, nothing proposed for the intersection?
No, and that was found not to be warranted by the traffic study.
Thank you again.
In a simple calculation that staff had done based on the size and configuration and shape of that parcel, even if you did not include any roadways, to have the minimum lot sizes of 6,000 square feet, you could only achieve, I believe it was 43 lots. So even though the density identified in the general plan says 8, that would be near to impossible to achieve without having to come back to the commission and ask for smaller lots, narrower road widths, which would have to be private and so forth. So I just want to assure the commission that the 8 dwelling units per acre is very theoretical, and that even the concept drawing, which proposes smaller lots and a narrower street width, still can't get more than 49 single-family homes on it with the one for the basin. And lastly, the map will have to come back before the Planning Commission for approval.
Commissioner Blanco.
You have a question, Frank. Has there been any discussion or what's contemplated for the streets and utilities? Will those be owned by the city? Will those be privately owned and maintained by the development?
Because of the narrower lot width, or excuse me, the narrower street width than the city standard, the streets will need to be private. And in terms of the utilities, I believe the utilities will still be public until they get to the private individual lots. And I'm getting a nod from our engineering staff.
Thank you.
Further questions of staff at this time? No? Thank you for your patience. If you can state your name and address for the record.
Cheryl Flores, I'm with People Self-Help Housing, and I do not live in the community of Santa Maria. Thank you for your participation, listening, and asking me to come back tonight. Mr. Albro, you were going to put up a slide presentation, please. Last time, there were a lot of questions about what the houses were going to look like and who was going to live there and some more general information. So I prepared a very short slideshow to kind of address some of those issues. People Self-Help believes in opening doors, building neighborhoods, and improving lives in your community. Next, please. I'd just like everyone to think for a moment, when was the last time that you went to the drive-in? You all have fond memories of going there, but most of us have certainly paid many cable bills, many Netflix bills, many Hulu bills since we've lent any support to the drive-in. Times have changed, we have many more options. Maybe it's time to make new memories. We can show movies in parks. You guys, the city has a downtown Friday night event. There's other things that we can be doing that isn't happening today at the drive-in. Next, please. The housing market in Santa Maria. Drive-ins are becoming extinct, but even more so, the American dream of home ownership. The median home price as of September in Santa Maria was $574,000. That's over a 20% increase from a year ago. Increasingly unaffordable. It takes a more than $90,000 household income to qualify for a mortgage of $547,000, unless you, or to buy a home, unless you have over $100,000 to put down as a down payment. And even so, if you can put 20% of the purchase price down, it still takes $82,000. Many of your families can't qualify for that. We need more housing. We need more programs like People's Self-Help and more down payment assistance loans that will help preserve the American dream for your families and essential workers. Next, please. Mr. Albert showed this slide earlier, how it's an island, a commercial island surrounded by residential. And so it seems more compatible, the uses of more residences, albeit maybe a little more dense than some of the surrounding neighborhoods than a commercial development might be. Next, please. There's been talk of our development. Last session, people were really worried about ADUs and increasing density. But actually, with the way we've designed it, with some of the lots being around 5,200 square feet, there's no way, I don't know that you could see the little set-aside lines, but there's little dotted lines that show where buildings allowed, because you have to set back, as you know, from your neighbors and streets so many feet. So it's physically impossible to put an ADU on any of the lots except possibly the 3 corner lots. You can see those, the one by Santa Maria Way and the 2 north and south opposing corners. And then there's been talk about driving through and impacting the neighborhood to the north. The way we originally designed it, our architect thought that we would want to have the flow of traffic, give people options for travel. But we quickly learned, talking to those in the community, that no, they did not want driving access. Pedestrian access would be nice. We also talked to the fire department because we thought they would want an emergency access. But they said no, they don't need emergency access unless you have more than 100 homes. So as currently proposed, there would be just a landscape walking easement through that area. Okay, next slide, please. And you wanted to know what the homes would look like. The homes that we laid out on the past drawing are the footprints from the homes we built in San Miguel recently. We built 63 homes. There were about 5 plans. There were 3 and 4 bedroom homes, mostly 3, with 2 baths and 2-car garages. We have about 5 different plans. And you can see they're a Mediterranean look with tile roofs, and they were all approved as, sand-colored stucco, but that would be another decision. Next slide, please. And then you wanted to know who might live in the home. So you're going to have single moms, you're going to have seniors, you're going to have families with young children, you're going to have families with teenage children. It's people from all walks of life would be living there. So those are some of the happy homeowners from San Miguel pictured there. Next slide. So what is mutual self-help housing? It's families working together, performing up to 70% of the work on the homes. Contractors do the more technical skills, the electrical, plumbing, those are the big 2, drywall, stucco, things like that. It takes 2 adults working 2 days on weekends, about a year to build their homes. Volunteers are welcome when COVID calms down. Next slide. So what are the results? Hardworking families become homeowners. Community is built, not just homes. There's a tremendous pride of ownership when you've been working on your home for a year before you get to move in. And while the families work on the homes, they develop skills to maintain their home and yard. And they also develop confidence to go on and achieve more. Next slide, please. Okay. What makes the homes affordable? The self-help labor is a big component. Also, we're a nonprofit. We're not looking to make a profit, and we keep overhead as low as possible. We merely want to get our costs out so we could move on and develop more homes. And also, we have access to low-cost loans and grants because of the work that the families put in. Many foundations and governments, CDBG funds and homes, can be used to assist the families afford the loans as well. So who qualifies? Households of at least 40-some thousand, depending on our costs, up to over 100,000 qualify. That's up to 80% of median income in the area for a family of 4. So that's a pretty wide range of people. That, you might have a firefighter whose spouse or isn't employed or doesn't have a spouse. You'll definitely entry-level teachers, even up to engineers. You have a wide variety of people who will qualify. Yes, they're, at the 40,000, 50,000, you may have, a lot of service workers. You may have some farm workers, a lot of retail clerks, a lot of medical technicians and things like that. So it'll be a neighborhood that's varied with different types of people in it. Next, please. So if you recommend the rezone, then we can build more housing and solve some of the problems today. Thank you. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them. And as Mr. Albro mentioned, the traffic engineer is here.
Thank you very much, Ms. Flores. I appreciate it. Do we have any questions for the applicant at this time? No? No? All right, thank you very much. Let's go ahead and do we have any written communications other than what's already been provided? No? Okay, and how about some public comment? We do have some people here. Do we have some folks? We have one person on Zoom. Let's start off with the people who are in-house, and we're going to start off with Madeline Nieto. Ms. Nieto, you have 3 minutes, and if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
I feel like Elle Woods. I'm legally blonde, except I'm legally gray. Anyhow, I'm Madalena Nieto. I'm a longtime resident of Santa Maria, California. Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the Commission. A zone change of the drive-in from commercial to residential would pose a significant adverse impact that cannot be undone. We, the owners, residents, and local community, have submitted pages of signatures to the Planning Department opposing this project. For various reasons, which include but are not limited to air quality, noise, traffic, safety issues, higher density housing, and spot zoning to accommodate low-income housing. There are currently 5 projects approved within 1 mile of Santa Maria Way, which is all to start construction next year. This would make number 6. How is that not a traffic concern? People Self-Help Housing has submitted a concept that is not complete. It is not fully planned development proposal. Developments should be clear and transparent. By law, once the zoning is changed from commercial to residential, certain elements are lost without knowing how SB 9 and SB 10 or ADU will come into play. These are sweat equity homes owned by the homeowner. The city or housing would have no to little control over who splits the homes, who rents out rooms, who illegally converts a room to a garage, or who operates a mechanic shop in their front yard, which is part of the problem with the current people self-help housing development in our city right now. The best way for the city to take back control from the state and halt SB 35 is to stop the rezone. Senate Bill 35 requires zoned or designated by the general plan for residential or mixed-use residential, which is not the case here unless you change it. Therefore, streamlining an approval while bypassing the normal planning process is not acceptable. The drive-in is zoned for commercial use, and it should be guarded as such to avoid the same mistake made, resulting in a 5-story affordable housing project that's to take place on the northeast corner of Santa Maria Way and Miller Street, or the Cox Bungalows, which was approved for senior housing and then changed to high-risk homeless people. Okay, when housing developments do not have to go before the Planning Commission or City Council to build, and they do not submit a full plan development proposal for a project as People Self-Help Housing has not done, it is wrong. The purpose of zoning is to assure orderly and beneficial development of the city. It's to encourage the most appropriate use of land, to maintain and stabilize the value of property, and to safeguard the public health. Quality of life should be more important than stacking people into communities like sardines, just to say that you have housed them. I'd like to end by sharing pictures of what, I know they paint a pretty picture, but this is the reality of the developments
If you could
here.
wrap it up, Ms. Nieto, thank you. Thank you very much.
See from the pictures, it's not as pretty as they present it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bob Gran. If you could state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes, sir.
Good evening, ladies, commissioners, planning, and staff. My name is Bob Gran. I am part of the family that owns the Highway Drive-In, 3170 Santa Maria Way. I have worked this business since 1978. I have over 40 years of my life invested in this business. The theater business has evolved, and to be truthful, we don't know what's going to eventually evolve. Streaming is supposed to stop in January, but as of now, the theater business as a whole is not where it used to be. This used to be a profitable business. It is not profitable anymore. Last week, AMC was actually excited with their third quarter earnings of only a loss of $224 million. So as you can see, the drive-ins were supposed to be an scapegoat during COVID. We did have our good weeks, but they have since left us. And we have also indoor theaters, and they're not making what they used to make. Basically, we lost close to over $100,000 on each property that we had closed. The highway hasn't come out of it yet. So I'm asking for your blessing because we did market this property as a drive-in movie theater with absolutely no interest. And I personally know approximately 50 to 60 drive-in theater owners throughout the United States. And there was no interest. It is a evolution in the industry that is going on, and drive-in theaters are leaving just because land value, profitability, et cetera, inefficiency in operation. It's very hard to make the same dollar we used to make 10 years ago. The last time I came before you, I hope you take some pity on me, I was representing the Santa Maria Theater building. And you basically was a taking through eminent domain so that the mall could come across the street. I hope I'm better prepared today to instill in you that this is a better use of the property that's there. Because if we purposely went out and looked at the self-help projects and we're impressed and we are proud to be partners with them in this project. But
Mr.
if
Graham,
it doesn't go through, it'll remain commercial. And if you want to look at the Valley Drive-In in Lompoc, there's what you'll have.
Thank you very much. Jarrett Graham? If you could state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to address you. My name is Jarrett Gran. I grew up in Santa Maria, but I'm currently a resident in San Luis Obispo. I'm the son of Bob and Diane Gran, who purchased the Highway Drive-In over 40 years ago. My dad passed away in 2006, and it's currently operated by my brother Bobby, who just addressed you, and my mom. And we are both here on her behalf. When my parents first purchased the driveway, the only thing it was surrounded by, or not surrounded by, but it was the mobile homes underneath it. Everything else was an open space. And over time, as the developments came in and residential completely surrounded it and engulfed it, it was clear that once the highway business was done, the most compatible use for this property, given its shape, its size, and the location, was going to be residential. As my brother has said, the drive-in business is in decline. And I'm going to address some of those concerns right now, because last time, at the last meeting in October when I was here, that seemed to be a very big concern of the commission and some of the audience members. I will address just a couple of points. Number one, competition. As already stated, I would imagine most people in the chamber tonight and on Zoom have one or more subscription to streaming services such as Netflix, Hulu, Apple TV, etc. Obviously, this is due to the relative low cost for the amount of entertainment provided, along with the comfort and ease of viewing in your own home at your own leisure. The entire movie exhibition business has changed, as my brother has indicated, with companies now releasing to both theaters and on demand at the same time, or in very close proximity, when in the old days they would release to theaters with a significant period of time before being released on video. In addition, we compete against 24 different screens in this town. The Edwards 14, Regal 14 across the street, and the Edwards 10 on the freeway. And when you have that, you have economies of scale. We have one screen that shows 2 shows a night. I looked at the website for Edwards. They have, obviously, 14 screens, 13 different movies, 44 shows. One screen, 2 shows, 14 screens, 44 shows. So the economies of scale obviously favor an indoor theater. In addition, our box office, approximately 60% of our box office will go to the film company. We don't make any money off the box office, so we have to make money off the concession stand. And if you go to our drive-in, we allow outdoor food. So if you go to pick up trash the next day, I'll try to make this quick.
You can wrap it up. Thank you, sir.
The wrappers are fast food wrappers, more than the products from our concession stand. So in order to try to keep our concession stand sales up, we have to keep our prices down to compete with the outside food in. Meanwhile, over the last 8 years, our cost of labor and our cost of goods sold has doubled, which further cuts into our profitability. So those are just some of the things. I haven't even mentioned maintenance, insurance,
Thank you, sir.
or the loss of our swap meeting.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I understand we have somebody on Zoom, or multiple people, one?
We have Cliff Solomon. Cliff Solomon, you can speak for 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Cliff Solomon. I live at 4446 Radcliffe Lane in Orchid, and I am here to speak in favor of the proposed People's Self-Help Housing Affordable Homeownership Project. I urge you to support the staff recommendation to approve the general plan land use amendment and zone change and accept the mitigated negative declaration. This is an exceptional project for this area and for Santa Maria. I have seen the presentation by Cheryl Flores from the People's Self-Help Housing Project. What struck me most about the venture was the fact that this project involves the homeowners in the building of their own homes and the homes of their neighbors. These are working families who are employed through the week at local jobs and then spend their weekends helping to build their new homes and the homes of their neighbors. This approach creates true pride in their homes and their community. As we all know, there is little affordable housing in Santa Maria. I should know, I recently sold my home and moved to a smaller townhouse and have seen firsthand the house prices of our area. This project would build 49 truly affordable homes to be owned by working families. By approving your staff's recommendation, you would take one step to help alleviate the housing crisis in our community. I should also add that the areas surrounding the proposed project are also residential, so the zone change is appropriate. The proposed project is a much better utilization of land than the existing zoning designation of general commercial, which is not compatible with adjacent residential uses. So again, I urge you to approve the staff recommendation about this project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Kathleen, is there anybody else?
No.
No? All right. The applicant, Ms. Flores, do you wish to have a rebuttal for any of the issues that were brought up or things that have been discussed?
The first speaker, I think, brought you some pictures that were actually posted on your website earlier with the letter. And I couldn't tell whether or not those were actually homes that people's self-help helped build 30 years ago or not, because they don't show any addresses. I know one of them was a two-story house, and we didn't build any two-story houses. However, things could change in 30 years. It could have been added on to. The 70 homes that we built, I said last time that approximately 50% are still owned by the original homeowners. The other 50% are not. And many of them are probably rented out. I drove through the Rolling Hills neighborhood a few weeks ago, and I noticed many lots with overgrown and dead landscaping and, extra cars and not as tidy as you might like. And I noticed many other houses that were immaculate, and people take tremendous pride of ownership. And that's what happens in all neighborhoods after so many years. Unfortunately, that it is, especially when they are not owner-occupied and they are rented out. Our families stay in their homes much longer than the average homeowner does, because they do have pride in it, and possibly because sometimes their options are limited and they do stay in their homes. But eventually, many of them do turn, and they are they're rented out, and they may not be as pretty as we'd like them to be. We do have strict CC&Rs, and we do get after homeowners when they're violating them. But it's not a perfect world.
Thank you very much, Ms. Flores. Do we have any questions by commissioners of either the people who've spoken or Ms. Flores? No? No? Thank you very much. Then I'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and we will bring it back to the commission for discussion and any decisions that the commission makes. Who would like to start? Commissioner Seifert.
Thank you, Chair. I've worked with self-help housing for many years on the CDBG, and what they've done is amazing, and their projects are usually, like the Casa de Familia was one I know we funded. They have self-help, they have after-school programs. My issue with this project isn't you guys or what you do. I have a few issues about the access to this property and the fact that we can't live with our neighbors on streets. I don't like the idea of the one entrance and exit for this whole subdivision. I think that at very least you should have two, and I'd sure like to see you guys work with your neighbors and try to get some accessibility there through the other streets like all the other neighborhoods have, instead of closed gates and you get up to the end of the street and you got to turn around and go back the same way you came. So I don't have a problem with your home, and I don't have a problem with the housing. I know we need the housing. I've seen what you guys have done with the families, and as a builder myself, I know the pride that you do get by building on your own homes. It really is something, and I think that anytime you have a product that you worked on, you're going to take much better care of it than something if someone gave it to you. So I think that the concept is excellent. I'm having a trouble that you didn't want to do the whole project. You're bringing us conceptual plans, you didn't finish your plans. I know that it's expensive, but it's important to sell your project to us by showing us exactly what you're doing, and you're not doing that, and you're leaving some questions there as to what we're really going to see when you turn around and come back after the rezone. I would have liked to have seen that now, although, as Frank says, apparently it's not necessary. So that's really my main issues with this project. I think what you folks do is excellent. I think that your products are proven and that your methods work. I believe we just funded or helped fund on the CDBG the church project. You guys just got through, and I'm hoping that's a very successful project. I know you got a lot of people in there on that. So I am a supporter of what you do, and I have voted for your funds in the past. So I'm having a few issues with the project. It's not your housing. It's not how you do business. And I think I've met the Nettos before. We talked many times on the Northern project. They're very active in their community. They live there. They're not planning on moving, and they're very. Anybody that gets out of bed and comes here and talks to us, it's important to listen to what they have to say. So I do take into account what the neighbors are saying too, and it does trouble me that we're having issues with the neighborhoods, and that we can't get these streets together and make viable neighborhoods where everybody can live together. So that's really the only issues, and and businesses are changing for all of us, not just the drive-in business. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Seifert. Sure. Commissioner Hernandez, do you want to go, or? Commissioner Blanco.
Well, at our last meeting, it was certainly a difficult thing to want to let go of a drive-in situation, just because I think it's so nostalgic for so many people. But thinking about it more, listening to the comments and the presentation, really, this property, if anything, makes a lot of sense because it is surrounded by the residential, and certainly housing is a high priority for any community, especially here on the Central Coast. And so opportunities to take a look at housing makes a lot of sense, especially if it's a property that's struggling to do anything else. And think about it, if it stays commercial, community commercial, what kind of commercial is really going to be compatible and work well there? Right now, I can't think of anything. Maybe there would be something at some point, but in the meantime, do you let a dwindling business just dwindle to nothing? So I do support housing that is somewhat affordable. It's crazy that people as hard as you have to work these days couldn't afford a home, and the idea of sweat equity and having some investment personally in it, I think that's going to be huge to these people, and I think it's definitely going to build more community. I think a detailed plan would have been nice. I think I agree with Commissioner Seifert a little bit more, but I understand the cost, and so being a nonprofit, those costs are just very hard to take in on the ground floor without having an idea that your project is going to have a chance to move forward. So I could certainly understand that. I think there's some flexibility. I think with the plan, obviously, we'd have to review it further down the line as a PD, and that gives us a chance to refine things quite a bit. And so that I think gives us some relief from that. The possibility to connect a second access, I think, is still there. I think People's Self-Help Housing was just trying to listen to the neighbors already, and if they didn't want it and the fire department didn't need it, then they didn't show it. But it doesn't mean it's completely gone. So I like the project. I struggle with it. I'd love to be able to go to a drive-in again, but it just, times are changing, and it's out of our control a little bit. So I I think the project is a good fit and a good use of this property. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Commissioner Hernandez.
Yes, I agree with Commissioner Seifert. I would have liked to see the plans, and I am concerned that we can't look at the plans because there's nothing set that wouldn't prevent you from changing it. Once you have a rezone, it's very easy to do because that's happened here before. And so I am concerned, that's my biggest concern. Also, there is other commercial uses such as a grocery store, which would be really nice for that neighborhood. But, I can't say what you do with your property in terms of using it for commercial uses. I do support the idea of being for people self-housing. I think it's a great program. We do need housing for low income. And so it is a difficult choice to make because we are giving up commercial use that could be used for something else to bring commercial to the city, but we also do need housing. So it is a difficult decision, but I think because it is people self-housing, I'm willing to support the project because they are the applicant.
Thank you very much. I also agree with Commissioner Seifert and the other commissioners. I would have liked to have seen the full project put before us, but that being said, it's not unheard of, as Frank said, as Commissioner Seifert alluded to, the reputation and the past practices of people self-help housing, I think, have done well for them. As in particular tonight, they're a group that has done good work and that you can point to and say that they'll be honest and straightforward with us, in which case I have faith that we will see these plans again as they have been presented conceptually tonight. Also, to be perfectly frank, it seems like they are somewhat locked in that given lot sizes, street widths, et cetera, it's not like they can go hog wild and all of a sudden come back with a bunch of additional housing units. It's going to be very, very difficult to do. And if they did, we would have to approve additional decreases in lot sizes to accommodate that, and I'm not sure we would be probably in a mood to do that. In regards to the drive-through, I feel for the business owners. It's and I'm a little saddened by it because it is an element of economic evolution, and this was a thing of nostalgia for a great many people who had a wonderful time with their families in the past. But when was the last time they were there in droves? It becomes very, very difficult from that standpoint. And I guess this would be the time to say this. While people are listening, in the past few months, past year or so, this body has seen two projects that sort of pulled at the heartstrings of the community around them. There's of course the drive-through here, and then there was the Kmart Center, where the community came out when they heard what was going to be taking place, and they had a lot of ideas about what should be happening to the property and this and that. And I guess what I want to say to the community as a whole is stand up and look around. Look around at the places that mean something to you, or that you think, geez, wouldn't this be a good idea if we move that direction? Because the time to bring those sorts of things up and to talk to the landowners is before they have been forced to go a different direction than your idea is. And we see this repeatedly where people come out when somebody else has moved forward and bringing a concept forward. Just take a look around. There's a lot of properties throughout Santa Maria that might mean something to someone, either because they had fond memories of the past or because they feel like certain services, grocery stores, et cetera, are not being adequately provided, and that maybe they can talk to landowners at that point, and maybe they can talk to the community, and maybe they can get something going. But the time to do it is before it reaches this body. Before. That being said, I think this is an appropriate project for that area. It fits very well in with all the other residential. As Commissioner Blanco said, I think it'd be very, very difficult to figure out a commercial project that, given its footprint, given where it is, et cetera, that you could actually adequately put something together. So I would be supportive of this project. With that, we are going to need a motion
Okay.
for a resolution.
I move that we approve People's Self-Help Housing General Plan Amendment by resolution, adopt mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring program for the proposed project.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Kathleen?
Commissioner Hernandez.
Aye.
Commissioner Blanco.
Aye.
Commissioner Seifert.
No.
Chair Dickerson.
Aye.
I move that by resolution recommend that the City Council approve the general plan land use map amendment and zone change GPZ 2021-0001.
Second.
Kathleen?
Commissioner Hernandez.
Aye.
Commissioner Blanco.
Aye.
Commissioner Seifert.
No.
Chair Dickerson.
Aye. Motion passes, and thank you very much, and good luck, and I'm sure we'll see you in the future. With that, we move on to the oral reports from planning commissioners and staff. Oh. I think she'll be wandering around this way. Oh, there she is. Hey. Yes. It's a pretty cool house, isn't it? Reports by staff?
Thank you, Chair, members of the commission. There's nothing to report. I do want to mention that it is our next Planning Commission meeting will be December 15th. We have a few tentative items which we will be getting back to the commission on which items will be on that agenda. Thank you.
Any study sessions between now and the end of the year?
No study sessions scheduled.
Thank you very much. Anything else? No? I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much. Go home. Enjoy your life.